This has a vocoder on it and some OTT and reverb. The vocoder is kind of adding that valley sound, which is really good. And then there's this growl, which I made in Serum. If you haven't noticed, basically all of these basses came from Serum. And then I bounced it down again to save on CPU space. And there was a little bit of feedback at the end. You can see that I removed that with a fade. And the last bass we're going to look at is kind of a filler sound. You can see I just called it filler. And this is a relatively basic sound, not much to it. Just very plain kind of growly sound. And you may have noticed that it's significantly more quiet than the other sounds. This is because during the drop, I actually have a section where it plays part of the melody that I have going on in the verses for a quick little break. And when you're doing that with your songs, when you take parts of the melody and put them into the drop, you want to add little parts of bass to them to keep the edge of the drop intact. You can hear how that sounds right here. If we take that out, and it's a lot more plain. The reason why we're taking a part from the verse's melody and putting it into the drop is to add a more consistent feel to the song. When you're making music and you have elements of a song which just come and go at random and they never reoccur, the songs can feel like they're haphazardly constructed, almost like you're doing something on the fly. And it's not very fun to listen to, especially in electronic music, where repetition can sometimes be necessary. To give the song a more consistent feel, we take parts of the melody and interspice them into the drop, so there's something predictable for the listeners to hear, and the songs don't feel improvised and random like if we just had ideas that come and never do anything. After the drop, we go into another verse section, so I'm just going to call this verse 2. Now this is where the construction of the song can vary depending on what you're trying to make. You might want to go into a complete breakdown, and then have a part that's similar to this verse, and then go into a breakdown / build up, and then into a drop, instead of heading just straight into a verse. And you might also want to make a drop that's shorter by cutting out the second half, and then going straight into the verse if you want a very streamlined song. But for this song, we'll go back into another verse after the second half of the first drop, then we'll go into a build up / breakdown, which is basically the same as the first one. We'll just call that breakdown. And then we'll be going into the second drop. Just call that drop 2. Now for the second drop, I didn't really change that much from the first drop. For the first quarter or so of the second drop, I have the drums going in double time to give it sort of a rave-ish feel. And then it switches back to the regular drums. And then in the second half, there's some changes in the arrangement, but there's nothing too major. Whether you want to make your second drop exactly the same as the first, have subtle changes, or having a different drop by keeping some of the same sounds but introducing some new ones, is all up to you. That's one thing I want to get across with this video, is that there's no real right or wrong way to construct songs, unless you have beats that don't match up or keys that don't match. But as far as the actual construction of the songs, the only right way is the way you feel the song should sound.